I'm a pretty bad kid.
And they gifted Nathan in the Stone. Yeah, that's Ref the District. Come on now and join us.
Let's go.
And they gifted
We are
Nathan in the Stone. Yeah, that's Ref the District.
That's the podcast.
Come on now and join us.
You join in. Yeah, let's talk about the bigger picture. Let's talk about how we be ballin', playing with the Wizards. Let's talk about the Nats and how they always got good pictures. Let's talk about the cats who rescue, turn them boys to winners.
Injuries and updates, oh yeah.
To the opponent, we stand toe to toe, yeah.
To the top, this podcast gonna go, yeah.
I think it's something you should know, yeah.
And they good with them all-season stats, that's a fact. And they can give you the season recap,
Yeah.
You know that's for a fact,
Yeah, it is. And you know we got our team on our back,
To us, no other team can measure.
No.
Cause our team is way better.
We the best one.
Never be under the weather.
Oh, no.
Yeah, W is the best leather.
Oh, it's the best one.
We love Washington, and we some die-hard fans.
Yeah, we are.
And you know we keep it on 10. Let's talk about the offense
1, 2,
and the
3, let's
defense.
go.
And they gifted
We are
Nathan in the Stoner. Yeah, that's Ref the District.
That's the podcast.
Come on now and join us.
You join in.
I'm a pretty bad kid.
Yeah, let's talk about the bigger picture. Let's talk about how we be ballin', playing with the Wizards. Let's talk about the Nats and how they always got good pitches. Let's talk about the cats who rescue, turn winners. Injuries and updates, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. To the opponent, we stand toe to toe, yeah, yeah, yeah. To the top, this podcast gonna go, yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's something you should know, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Ref the District. I'm Nathan Perry. He's the Stoner, and he's running the show today. So if you got any problems with the technical stuff, you got to take it up with that man right there. As I'm traveling abroad, this is not my real background, but it is my real background. It's one of those things. So, of course, we're streaming live here on our YouTube channel every morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, as my wife would like to remind me. And then we'll push this out onto all your favorite podcast platforms, whether that's Apple, Google, Amazon, or Spotify. You can catch us all there as well. But it is good to be here. It is a little hard to be here right now, as my gracious guests have, or not guests, but my gracious hosts have made me this delicious breakfast here, full plate breakfast, that I'm going to have to wait an hour for it.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it, Nathan.
We'll see how it goes.
I would have to eat on air.
Yeah. So I'm spending some time with my my in-laws and my wife and son. We're out on the lake, so they're retired, and they did not necessarily appreciate me waking them up super early to get this going. But they, of course, still gracious hosts, made me breakfast, and they're sitting there outside enjoying the morning while we get this done. Stoner, how are you doing? I know you don't have a full plate breakfast, tempting in front of you.
Nothing. Yeah, no, this is all very intimidating. Having the controls on my end, it's very, very intimidating. But we'll see if we can't get through it. But you're right. If we have any issues, it's all on this guy. I'm ready.
It's a team sport. We've practiced a couple times. We should be able to go. And again, we've got a good show for you, because on the post game, we're going to be talking about our nationals and how it might be a team sport, but they're not a team that's playing very well together. On the game, we're going to be talking about the Washington football team. Hey, they announced the new names coming here in 2020, and we're also going to go over our Twitter poll. So we're going to talk about that. And then here in the warm-up, it's the Wizards coaching hunt, and that's coming to a close, which is good because the draft is right around the corner.
It is. It's a couple weeks away, a little more than 2 weeks away. And so let me ask you this, Nathan. So Washington's one of two teams that don't have a coach yet, right? Is Orlando is the other out of the 7 vacancies or whatever. So I'll give you 3 choices. Is this a good thing that they're waiting this long? Is this a bad thing, or is this a nothing thing?
This is a I don't really understand it thing. Shouldn't the coach be there during all these pre-draft workouts and interviews? Yeah. That to me is what's concerning, because sure, they're probably being recorded, but you got to get a better feel for it as it. So I'm a little worried.
But and that's fair. So that would put you in the category probably a bad thing.
Yes, to me it's
at least
a bad
leaning
thing.
towards a bad thing.
I would definitely put it as it's definitely not a good thing that the coach isn't in place.
Yeah.
And is it really just between Washington and Orlando? Sorry, I've been in vacay mode. I'm in vacation mode, so I haven't kept track of the others as well as I could. New Orleans. Who did New Orleans hire?
I'll have to look it up.
I put him on the spot.
You're right. It may be.
He's going to do this to me later, because he has his own thoughts to share on the Washington football team name, and he's not gonna. He doesn't tell me these things beforehand. He just is like, I'll bring it up.
Right.
So
I just throw
if I looked shocked or disgusted, it's genuine.
Yeah,
it's very genuine. I know. Hey. Before we get going, I know you mentioned that you also want to throw a little spice into this. We are DC Sportscast, but we enjoy sports in general, and you wanted to give a shout out to Messi.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it can't be mistaken, or it can't be argued, really, that he's the greatest soccer player in the history of soccer, right? So him finally getting that monkey off the back and getting his team his Argentine team. He's had plenty of
club success,
victories for his club team. Yeah, but this was the first time, and it showed. If you watched the end of that, it meant a lot, not just to him, obviously, but to his teammates, to be able to give him that. And what I like about Messi, as opposed to all the other players, is he's not a diver. He doesn't dive. He doesn't complain. You don't see him screaming at the refs all the time like a lot of the stars do. Sure, he does sometimes, but he doesn't do it just to do it, just to be a pain. So I'm really happy for him, and it was a good match. It was fairly controversial, but what soccer match isn't? When you got one referee, this has always been a complaint of mine. You got one referee trying to judge a field bigger than a football.
You do have the two
field.
sideline judges as well.
Yeah, but come on, what happens when it's all the way on the other sideline?
You have one for each half, Stoner. That's how it works. One's on one side, covers that half, and one's on the other side, cover this.
Yeah,
half.
but he doesn't. The one who's on the other side, he doesn't come all the way
Yeah,
down.
they only cover their half.
He stays at the last.
Well, that's why the
stays...
ref in the middle is like that. That's why he goes to the other side so he can watch that action, and then the person gets the close in.
It's ridiculous because let's
the
look at it
like in soccer, in non-American football, right? Football, is no worse than the NBA refs. It's no worse than what's his name? What's that umpire who, for the love of God, cannot pick a strike box to save his life?
Like Angel Hernandez.
There we go. I spaced on the name there. Angel Hernandez it's like I'd much rather have the soccer refs than Angel Hernandez, behind home plate. I'd rather have that than a lot of those NBA refs. There was the hockey ref who retired right after a game because it was just, he knew it was so poorly called. No, it was an NFL ref, sorry, that retired right after the game. He was just like, yeah, that was a bad game for me. I'm retired. We're done. Can't fault me now.
You're right. It's not specific to that sport, but I would like to see a second referee on the field, like they did in hockey. For the longest time, they only had one official and two linesmen, and then they added a second referee because they couldn't always be in that spot. They still suck, right? But I mean, all officials suck. But
and here we are. We call
but it was a controversial game.
Railing on the refs right now. All right.
But I thought it was a good match, right?
Good for Messi. I was happy also to see that success for them. I think a lot of people just assumed Brazil was going to win. So it was good to see Messi take one for his national team. Not the only national teams playing. In fact, we got a game later today, not too much longer for that game. I think it'll be here in the early afternoon, is England versus Italy. A little bit of a home game for England. And I know we got the DC tweet team. Andy, I follow him on Twitter, and he's staying sober day. He's going to be a designated driver, so good for him. Shout out to our English fans for Washington football team and the ref the district. I'm pulling for England, so I was pulling. At the start of the tournament, last name's Perry. It's Welsh, so I was pulling for and I'm a Swansea City guy. So if you're anybody's familiar with English. Football, you guys can, get on me for that. But I was pulling for Wales. They lost 4-0. That was embarrassing. And then so normally I wouldn't, cheer on for England, but the Italians, I'm not really a big fan of the way that they play the game. Mm-hmm. So
because they're so defensive.
Did you not see the video of the guy who, I know the diving happens everywhere. But the Italians just try to turn it into an art form because that's what the Italians do. I lived in Italy for 3 years. Lovely country, lovely people. So I'm not trying to disparage them, but their football team, it's very much an art form. The diving, the guy was on the ground trying to get the call. They scored the goal. The guy gets up and he's cheering, and then it happens. It almost looked like that. Key and Peele skit. Have you seen that? Where the guy gets brought back to life on the field and scores the goal, and everyone's just like, "What the heck happened?" Yeah, it was kind of like that. It was silly, just plain.
Well, you can't excuse England either because that's how they got their equalizer, or was it the equalizer? No,
there
was
was
the
certainly some
in extra time, right?
Questionable
the
goals.
guy
Yes,
took a dive. He barely got touched.
So we'll see.
But,
I think I have more people who, in my life will be happier if England wins. So I want those people to be happy. So
Yeah.
go England, celebrate
Yeah,
safely,
sure.
or watch.
Yeah, I'll definitely be watching for sure.
I'll be on the lake,
but
be watching. So
oh well. circling back to New Orleans, I think you're right. I don't think they've hired.
okay. I was about to say
coach
I
yet.
thought there was a few more coaching
Yeah, you're
vacancies out there.
So it's got to be just the 3 then, at least.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I'm right about that. It's just the 3.
I'm
There ain't
not going to
more.
question you any further. I won't question you any further.
But-
But I do want to talk about our Washington Wizards and the coaching hunt. We mentioned that we feel like it's a bad thing, right? We don't feel like this is a good thing that they don't have a coach yet because the draft is.
When you say we, who
Do I got a mouse in my pocket?
I don't.
Do I got? Do you not? Do you think this is a fine thing? You're in the good category. You're in the whatever category.
I'm in the neutral category.
I
Yeah.
tried being a
I
little bit
don't
on the fence,
hate that
but
they're
leaning
taking
towards the
their
bad
time.
side. You got to pick a side now.
Yeah, I would say probably good side. I would say that they're
think it's a good thing they
they're
don't have
doing
a
their
coach.
due diligence. Yeah. Well, I mean, so I
Draft
posed
is
that
the
question to
23rd,
somebody.
right? The draft is coming up.
29th.
Oh, the
Yeah,
23rd
so
is
it's
our
a little less than.
yeah. So
Yeah, so I don't have a too big of a problem with it, and I put it out there asking about a coach. Don't you want a coach there to be evaluating all these college kids who are coming in for their workouts and all that? And they say, well, all these coaches are on other NBA teams, so they are getting a look at all the same guys for the most part. Because they're working out for these other teams as well. So let's just say Wes Unseld Jr. And
he's
Denver,
got to be the front.
he's still employed
right?
by Denver. Yeah, but he's still employed by Nuggets as an assistant coach, right? So when the Nuggets have guys in for their workouts, he's still there, seeing the same guys that the Wizards are seeing, right? So he's still gonna have that up close. It's not necessarily all on tape. So that's why I'm okay with it. They're taking their time, due diligence. They're gonna find the right guy, and Brad even said it. That the team is going to find the guy, and then they're going to talk to Brad and Russ and make sure they're okay.
Yeah, they're going to get. Well, they're going to get to the finalists.
They are going to
is
get
what
in
it
on
is.
that.
So once the Washington Wizards get to their finalists, probably the top 2 people, which I got to figure is pretty soon here. That's when they're gonna go to Beal and Westbrook and be like, hey, these are our 2 guys. What do you think? Some people, I've seen this a little bit on Twitter. Some people not happy. They're like, yeah, check with Beal, but why check with Westbrook? He's only got 2 years on his deal. Like, to me, it's a no-brainer.
Beal's only got one.
These are your superstar players. These are the people who are going to be on the team this year. You're going to want to make sure that they're on board because, yes, you can move pieces and stuff like that. But if giving yourself the best chance this year, you're going to want to make sure that those 2 are happy. And if they're clearly not, then that's when you can start working out a deal. I think.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Unless you are going to, they are not your future, then you wouldn't consult with them. But they're obviously.
I think Westbrook
at least your near
Westbrook
future.
is going to be a little harder to move because of his contract. I don't think that they want to move Beal. I think that if Beal leaves DC, which by all accounts he wants to stay here, he wants to be one team his entire career. If they move him, it's going to be some kind of sign and trade deal later on, so that way he can get the maximum contract he could possibly get. So, but
I don't think he's going anywhere. I really
so.
don't. A lot of people think. I don't think so.
No, I think he'll stay.
I hope not.
I can see Westbrook leaving at some point, bouncing around. Finding a place where he can be like CP3 and be up 2-0 in the first finals of his career. Only won't be for Westbrook; it'll be his second. So good on the Suns there.
Did you watch any of the USA basketball against Nigeria?
I was keeping
tabs.
I was keeping tabs, and I was just like, "What in the world is happening?" Because at first it was just like, "Okay, this is cute." They're keep letting them stay in the game, and then by the end of it, I was just like, "What in the world happened?" Pop says, "Hey, this is a good thing it happened." I
agree.
Hey, if you're gonna lose, this little warm up game against Nigeria is the time to lose. Yeah.
Yep, I agree. And Nigeria is a country, basketball-wise, that's on the rise because if you remember maybe a couple Olympics ago, and the U.S. team smoked them by like 80 points, something like that. And at that time, they had one NBA guy on their team. Now their entire team are NBA guys, and they've got Mike Brown, an excellent NBA head coach in the past. He's coaching them, and they're not intimidated
Nope.
like they used to be.
And this is something that we talked about a little bit last week as well, right? Where we were talking about if anything can unseat the NFL. We talked about how basketball is very much also an international sport. I think the NBA has some issues that they would have to fix out for it to be able to overtake the NFL, but internationally, it's the sport is growing, and you're seeing this happen with the national team. These games aren't a gimme. This was 2004 that they lost, right? They didn't get a gold medal, and we had to have the redeem team and other issues. So it'll be interesting to see. I do think that USA is the hands-on favorite. The team doesn't really excite me. I think that the team could be better, but it's exciting to see Beal. Unfortunately, got that little injury during the game, so we'll hopefully. I think it was minor. You just don't want to see it. You want to see him do well. I think that he is also adjusting because he's used to playing as the go-to guy, and this is essentially an all-star team, and the game is slightly different at the international level than it is at the NBA level. So he's still learning how he fits in. But hey, Pop says the man's thick. So.
That's right. He had a lot of praise for Bradley, which is good.
Yeah, always good.
But they're still going to win the gold medal. I'm telling you that right now.
You put
they're
him
still
down?
going to win. They're not going to be easy.
Yeah,
but
I won't bet you $1 on
they're
that.
Still
I
win.
think that that's a fair assumption that they'll win.
Think about all the guys that are missing from or should be on this team. Let's just say if they were healthy / wanted to play because of the timing, it's just not great for them to be able to put their body through a whole summer of this. But the LeBrons and the Harden and Kyrie and Anthony Davis and Chris Paul. I mean, you can just go on and on about all the guys who should be there.
The condensed season
Kawhi
really affected them in this regard, and the fact
absolutely.
that this was supposed to be last year, not this year. So lots of things being goofy with the Olympic level sports. We'll see who the Wizards take. I would almost put $1 down on it being Wes Unseld Jr. I think that's your hands-on favorite.
Be him.
So
him or Ham.
So we'll see who they end up selecting. But that will finish up our warm-up, and we'll get back to you right after the jump here. It's the game where it's our Twitter poll and the Washington football team new name. Game on, people. All right. Now, Stoner, you always do this to me. You're like, hey, I got this thing, but I'm not going to tell you. I just want to talk about it while we're on the air. And so I don't really get to plan. Right. I don't get to tell people what it is. So let us know. You have this grand theory of why people, don't want the name change, which is fair. I followed the topic Washington football team on Twitter, and I would say probably, obviously this is anecdotal evidence, I would probably say 80% of the tweets I see just with that Washington football topic, people I don't follow that they're just like, hey, they're talking about Washington football team, are people who are just like, it's still the Redskins. It's always going to be the Redskins. So people are really holding on to the name. And here we go. Jason Wright came, through Nikki and the Washington Post. They have an article out. Please go read it. It's a great article. Jason Wright says new name is coming in 2022, early 2022.
Yep. Which is awesome.
It's great. So the one that I really liked, the tweet that I wanted to frame it, was that it was, and this is king of wishful thinking here, right? Is that they're going to announce it when they hoist the Lombardi Trophy.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Wouldn't that be?
Okay,
Wouldn't that
I'm
be
sorry.
great?
I didn't mean to
Wouldn't
laugh.
that be great?
Yeah, that would be great.
That would be amazing. I think I don't. I think if they could name them. What did you call them? The purple pink caterpillars.
The burgundy powder
That's
puff
right.
caterpillars.
Got to keep the colors because we are going to keep burgundy and gold, which is good.
That's right.
It's good.
I'm
That
sure.
color scheme
Yep.
works. I like it. Yeah. So yeah, the powder puff caterpillars. If they're hoisting the Lombardi, no one cares.
Yeah.
No
That's
one
right.
cares.
That's 100%
Yeah.
right.
So it'll be interesting to see what that name is. And we'll get to that in a little bit, but I want to hear your theory on why people are holding on to the old name.
Okay, so I got a lot of questions for you to kind of set this up.
This
right?
is why if you tell me it beforehand, we can work into
No.
the bit.
No. I want organic thoughts on this.
Okay.
Just off the top of your head. That's why I don't tell you. I like it to be organic. All right. So of the 80% of the people, anecdotal number you said, and I agree. It's very anecdotal. Who knows? How many of them would you say are? I'm just going to put a number. Are 40 years of age and older? Of that 80% that, or of the fans, and I won't just say the 80%, of all the fans who don't want the name change, how many would you say are age 40 and older?
I would probably put it at just over half. I'm surprised at the number of younger people that are on this, and I do want to clarify: the 80% is of the people I don't follow. The vast majority of the people that I follow on Twitter are let's move on. We're moving on. That it's going to be a new name. They're sporting the team. Yes, they a lot of them. I mean, you had Washington football addicts that had to change their name, and a couple others that did so as well. They're fans of the team. And so I would have to say probably out of the ones that I don't follow that I just happen to see because I follow the topic, I'd probably put it at like maybe 60, 70% that are above the age of 40.
Yeah. And
the really
vocal
diehard
put it
ones
higher,
seem to be.
Yeah, they're older because they've been with the team longer. So they think it's very important to them, the name, which to me is dumb. It's a name. Get over it. Are you going to not like Joe Theismann now because the name has changed? No, you care about Joe Theismann. You care about the men on the field, and you care about the results and the team. You don't care about all of that other stuff. But anyway, so here's my theory. I saw, and I'll tell you what sparked my theory. I saw this guy on Twitter, of course. I love Twitter, and I hate Twitter, both.
I
saw this guy
during one of our podcasts.
Yeah, it is a cesspool. It is a cesspool, but there's a lot of great information out there as well. But okay, so this guy, he put this picture out there, and I don't know who it is. I probably couldn't find it again, but I just happened to see it again. Probably somebody I don't follow. And he had like let's just say a 3 foot by 3 foot piece of wood, not wood. Give me another name. Flat wood. I'm not obviously
cardboard.
Not cardboard, but
Poster
it's
board.
wood, but it's
wood,
flat.
Plywood.
Plywood. Thank you. Jeez, I don't know what's going on. All right, so he had this plywood, like a 3x3 plywood, and on the plywood he had the wired, the colored electric wire or whatever, like in bars.
Okay.
How if everywhere
like a
in
neon?
the bars you got.
Are we
like,
talking like neon lights?
Neon.
You are really
Thank
struggling
you.
today, son.
I'm struggling here.
Do you need this breakfast?
Terms.
Do you want me to show you the?
No. Yes, I do.
Look at that quality
all
breakfast.
Of it, please. Oh man.
Gotta love the hospitality.
I haven't eaten anything today. Okay, so he had just picked it up because he had gotten it fixed, and the wire, the neon lights that were on there were in the shape of the old Redskins logo, the Native American with the headdress or whatever.
The classic, the classic logo.
Yeah,
it's actually sitting behind you on your hat back there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right there.
Here? Yeah. So, I mean, all I have to do is turn around. I don't know why I have to try and figure it out with the camera.
Much respect for the jersey you actually do have on, by the way. I love that
nice.
That jersey.
So he was, and it was really cool, right? And this was an older guy, and he had just gotten it back from a repair shop, I guess he had to fix it or whatever. And and he was super excited about getting it back. And that spurred the thought in my mind. And here's my theory. The people who are upset about the name change are those who are invested, not emotionally, because good Lord, it's a name and it's a symbol. They are invested financially in this name and the images and everything that goes with it. You know, and I know plenty of people that are just, their life revolves around this team, and their home and their clothing are all burgundy and gold and got the images and all that. I mean, we know people who shoes and just look in the stands.
I have a pair of
every
basketball
week and you
shoes
see,
that are burgundy and gold.
because
of the team.
that's
Yeah,
the
that's
color,
that's
right?
the team.
And you got the jerseys, and you got all the tchotchkes, and some of these people are invested tens of thousands of dollars. Some people's bars at home, their home bar, are just completely Redskin stuff.
I
all over the
almost bought a
place.
house in Bowie strictly because the bar that they had downstairs was decked out in Washington, Redskins stuff. This was a few years ago. And it was I was just like, oh sweet, it's a great bar, it's a good looking bar, and it's already got everything set up, and they said everything was staying there because the rest of the house was cleared out. There was just like they were leaving that there. And it looks great, and it's good. And I understand. I obviously have a lot of stuff that's invested in the old thing,
right?
And I think honestly,
And
this
now,
is why
all that stuff is
this is why I think they decided the team decided to stick with the burgundy and gold, right? And so that way, you're still wearing a Sean Taylor Redskins jersey with a spear. Again, I realized we do audio podcasts as well, so I got to make sure I don't just call out the visuals, so that we call out what exactly we're looking at. So quality jersey there, and so I think that it's important that they did keep the burgundy and gold scheme. Because one, I think people have attachment to that kind of color scheme. It is very unique within the sport. In fact, I'm trying to think of any other team that has anything similar to it. I don't really think that there's really any other kind of burgundy and gold team that I can think of.
No, of course not.
And so I think that it's unique, and I think they wanted to keep that because then people can take those jerseys or the jerseys that I have behind me to the game. And it still matches. You don't have like a powder puff blue, and then the burgundy and gold from as a throwback. So
okay, so let's just take, for example, that guy's bar in the house that you almost bought, right? Sure, he can or she, the family, they can leave that as is to be nostalgic or whatever. But answer me this. If the team went in, they're not going to do this. If the team went to every single fan and said, I'm going to replace every single piece of tchotchke, everything on your walls and your neon lights and all, I'm going to replace it all with the new name and the new image, symbol / whatever. And I'm going to do it for free. And you get to keep all that old stuff, but you have to put it away in boxes or whatever and just keep it for the future, for grandkids or whatever, or sell it, whatever you're going to do with it. But you have to change everything. So your jerseys that are hanging up behind you, we're going to replace all 3 of them, but now it's going to be in the new team name. And we're going to replace your shirt, and we're going to replace your coffee mugs, and you're going to replace your stickers on here, and we're going to... Oh, that's not the Redskins, but you know what I'm saying.
Great plug. Great
everything.
Plug for Ref the District stickers.
Ref the District. But we're going to replace everything that you own. Your shoes, your overalls, your hats, everything that has the likeness of a Native American, and we're going to replace it with whatever the new symbol is for free. And you don't have to pay a dime. I think you would take that 80% of the people who don't want to see a change, and I think that would go down to 10%.
It would dwindle. There would definitely be a few
okay
diehards. I think for some people, it's the principle of the thing, right? There's some people who staunchly believe
that's political.
Yeah, I get that.
That's totally different.
There are people who were fans of this team strictly because they felt like when Washington kept deciding that they were going to stick with the Redskins, there are people who are fans of this team strictly because of that, because they're like, yeah, stick it to the PC crowd. And then all of a sudden they flip the switch and they realize, hey, we should change the name. We're going to change our name. That all of a sudden now you have the people who were, kind of railing against the political correctness crowd and trying to go, saying that, hey, they're caving. I don't like this. And so it's a principle thing. However, what I laugh at is, we've talked about this before, right? The name thing is silly. You're a fan of the team. And these people, I'd said anecdotally, the ones that I see, 80% of the stuff that I see on just following from Washington Football Team topic that I don't personally follow already, those people, they're still invested. They're still invested in the team. If you're so disparaged about the team name changing and you really don't like it, you are free to move on. But these people haven't, and they still follow the team. They're still there. And as we said, you can call them the Powder Puff Caterpillars. And if they're hoisting the Lombardi, these people will not care. That's what's going to get rid of it.
Right.
That's what, to me, more so than this fictional thing of going in and replacing all of your Washington Redskins memorabilia for free. We're going to take that "you like that" towel from behind the Stoner, and we're going to take that and we're going to give you something that is from the new team name. I think that, sure, you'd probably win over a few people. I do think that you'd still have some that are very staunchly against that name change. But if you win in the playoffs, people aren't going to care. That's what's going to win them over. And then you're going to slowly start to 100%. See these people who were railing against the change start to come along. Because even in 2022, when the team name gets announced, you're going to have people who don't like it. So even if they are
going to have a huge amount
of people, even if they do name drop it as they're hoisting the Lombardi, you're still going to have people who aren't going to like it. But that's fine. We're never going to, and that's one thing that's kind of frustrated me with this process, is that it has taken as long as it has. Now, I understand they're doing their due diligence, and they probably already have the name picked out at this point, right? Probably. Because if it's coming in early 22, there's a lot of things that need to be in motion, and we're probably going to get the name leaked at some point. It's very hard to keep this stuff under wraps for as long. I'm still on team.
Do you think they'll do a fake leak?
Oh, maybe. You never know.
They might.
I will say this:
throw something out there.
The new crowd, has been pretty good about keeping information from leaking.
That's
so. We'll see.
But what I mean by a fake leak, meaning
they'll leak out the wrong
they'll
name.
Release it on purpose.
Yeah. They'll release it.
And if it
goes bad,
if they get a lot of
we're the DC defenders. Bad, people are like, wait, that was a name already used.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no matter what, a lot of people are gonna hate it, but whatever. And most of the people are gonna be, and I use that age line, 40 and above, also. Mostly because of the money that they have invested over 30 years, 40 years, 50 years of their life. They just invested tens of thousands of dollars, and they don't want that to become obsolete. Obviously, you can still keep it, but it's just not who the team is anymore. So that basically become obsolete. So it's a money thing, but it's also, you're just going to get the old codgers who they're just like, I'm not, I'm stubborn and I'm not changing, or I'm not changing the name. So you're going to get that crowd too.
It'll be interesting. No
matter what, you're right.
What name are you hoping for right now?
I'm telling you, man, I'm the DCFC without a nickname, and we just call them the Hogs.
We'll see what they come up for. The DCFC, man, it's definitely growing on me. We'll see what they do come up with. Let us know in the comments if you're watching if you're one of our live listeners. Let us know in the comments what you would like, or tweet us at us, Ref the District, with your name suggestion. Like I said, I'm pretty sure they've already got it in the bucket. We'll see where it goes. Speaking of our Twitter account, we had a poll up. I know it didn't get that many. I think maybe people were kind of pulled out at this time.
Yeah,
or maybe the topic just wasn't that interesting to them. But I felt like this was a pretty good topic, because with Dak's injury, I think this is a lot closer than some people give it credit for, and we had a few homers in there that said it. So go ahead and read off our poll, and then we'll get to the numbers here in just a little bit.
Okay, the Twitter poll was simply, first of all, it had a disclaimer, not a disclaimer, but just set it up. We all agree that this entire season comes down to one position, the quarterback position, and how well Fitzpatrick plays. So in the NFC East, where would you rank Ryan Fitzpatrick against all the other quarterbacks in the NFC East? Obviously, just 1, 2, 3, or 4. Where would you rank him? And some people had him at number 1, but most people had him at number 2 behind Dak. Which that's where I voted.
That's where I voted. I think Dak's injury, like I said, makes this interesting. If Dak doesn't get injured, Dak is clearly heads and shoulders the best QB above them all, and I still voted him as the best QB. Ryan Fitzpatrick, I think, Daniel Jones, maybe he can make the jump. I'm not really seeing it. I think that he can be an exciting player to watch, and then sometimes I'm just like, this is a New York Giants quarterback like Eli Manning, who will just for years go 8-8, or I guess now 8-9, 9-8, however that's going to work. For years and just not really be great. And then we don't know what Jalen Hurts is going to bring to the table. And that I think,
not much.
It doesn't look like it. I was cheering on the guy, I'm here in Oklahoma, and cheering on him as a Sooner. But I can't cheer him on as an Eagles player. But I did kind of wish him well enough, right? I hoped that he would, because he seems like a very high character guy, and so you want those guys to do well. And
every time
we'll see. No, go.
Anytime I think of Daniel Jones, I think him of being a pretty good quarterback, and then I'm always reminded that he's 4-0 against Washington, and he's 1-17 against everybody else. And that always brings me back down. Okay, because we don't see him every single week like we see Washington. We just see him twice a year, and for the last 2 years, he's absolutely.
Oh, he looks like a great quarterback when he plays
looks like
against
an all-pro.
Washington. Yes,
right.
Yeah,
but he's terrible against everybody else. So that's why I didn't put him above Fitzpatrick, even though I'm on record. Fitzpatrick is about as mediocre as you can get.
I think I would say that that's pretty fair, though, right? Because you're talking 32 starting quarterbacks. Fitzpatrick's probably in that 12 to 16 range. So
yeah, closer to 16, but yeah,
12 to 16. Do you think
yeah.
he's in the 16 to 20 range?
Yeah, I think he's more in the 16 to 20.
You think so?
Well, we get carried away with the Fitzpatrick hype. He has never, ever, except maybe one season 10 years ago, has ever had a good season
Miami
at this
Miami
level.
had a pretty
and
good
all
season last year. I know he wasn't the only QB to play. He might not be the only QB to play here in Washington this season.
But you can only go by what he's done. And it's not like a Daniel Jones where you have 2 years to look at. You've got 16 seasons to look at, and it's not good. Why all of a sudden in his 16th year is he going to ascend to this top 10
I think it's because you have this thing called Fitz magic, right? So there is something about his play that's exciting, and even though he I believe has a losing record as a QB.
Never been to the playoffs.
Never been to the playoffs.
One time he's hit 30 touchdowns.
So I think that there's, this is, the cardiac kid, right? Like this is one of those just exciting. He makes football exciting, and that's what people want.
Okay.
And I think that's where it comes from, and that's fair. I think probably more accurately, I can see that in the 16 to 20 range seems fair, based off of his thing. Where do you put Heineke? If you swap Heineke for Fitzpatrick, are you putting Heineke 20 to 32, somewhere in that range?
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
You're gonna make a lot of the people on the Heineke hype Really,
But
really
again,
upset.
what are we doing here with Heineke? He's had one performance
That's made
in his entire
that's
career.
made you go wow, but it made us go
Yeah.
wow, Stoner. It made us
But he's
go wow.
never done that
No,
before.
there's
So
a
now
reason
all
why
of a
I'm not on the
sudden-
Heineke hype either. I think that he'll be an excellent backup QB for us, and I think that when Ryan Fitzpatrick is on the bench for whatever reason, Heineke will play
Yeah.
well in his place. It's funny on Hogs Haven they had an article that Mark Tyler got a lot of grief for because he said that he compared Heineke to Colt McCoy, and people thought that was disrespectful to Heineke, and I'm just I didn't understand it.
Colt McCoy is 10 times the quarterback that Taylor Heineke is.
I wouldn't necessarily go that far, but I will say this: it's hard to sit there and argue that they're not very similar, and the fact that Colt McCoy has made a living as a backup quarterback and has played reasonably well in the games that he's come in, but he's also been injured pretty much every time he comes in. And so I think that if Heineke could be Colt McCoy in 10, 15 years, Heineke takes that. I think he have to
Okay,
take.
but we're talking about right now.
Right now.
We're not talking about where
Are
they're
you
going to
saying
end
that
up in 15
right now,
years.
if you needed somebody to come in for the second half of a game and then start the next game, who are you taking, Heineke or Colt McCoy?
Right now, I would probably take Heineke.
Yes.
But
I'm not saying Colt McCoy.
But there's a lot of caveats to that. He's in the system right now, and
Colt McCoy was in the system
he's
for
on
years.
Not this system. He was in the old school. He's in the Jay Gruden West Coast type system. But no, I'm not. Just because Taylor Heineke's there. But if you had both of them in camp right now and at the same age, because Colt McCoy's a lot older,
Yes.
right? Isn't he in
He's in his 30s.
early 30s, maybe 32, 33? So you'd want the younger guy,
Even
right?
though Heineke's
But
not exactly
in their-
young. Isn't Heineke late
Yeah,
20s?
he's like 27 or
He's late 20s.
yeah. But still, if you had Heineke right now or Colt McCoy when he was 27 or whatever, you would take Colt McCoy 100 out of 100. The only reason people have this thing about Heineke is because he hasn't proven he can't do it yet either.
Last year,
He's
I
proven
guarantee you, last year, week 16, because I think that's when Heineke came in and filled in for a little bit, right? It was week 16 for like
game 16.
game
maybe.
16.
Maybe,
No, it was
who
week
knows?
16.
It's
Yeah,
all
17
blur now,
17
right?
weeks last year. I'm talking last year. Right?
Yeah.
So he came in. If you're talking week, then we'll say week 15. And you're going to need somebody to come into the game for week 16.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, not ignore. That's why I'm saying last year at this time. If you're asked for Heineke, who literally had you took away from college classes, some insane, super smart guy college classes, who wasn't playing football, who was a backup quarterback in the XFL, 5 years, in the league doesn't do anything type deal, or Colt McCoy. 10 out of 10 times you're taking Colt McCoy. The only reason why this has changed is because of that Tampa Bay playoff game and a little bit of before, because he has some moxie. He brings that to the table, which is good to see.
Sure.
And again, I think it's along with Fitzpatrick, just makes football exciting. So I think that's why there's a hype. But no, I agree with you. I don't know. A lot of fans are trying to really, hype up Heineke. I want him to do well. I really do, because if he does
I'll be
well,
honest,
then that means the team's doing well.
Well, let's be honest. If he's playing, they're in trouble.
I don't think that's the
Right?
case.
It's not for good reasons. He's not going to play when the team is 6-3 and leading the division by 2 games. He might come in for mop-up duty.
Barring
He's
injury or
not going to
anything
be your
like that,
starter
sure.
and all. Barring injury, if they're 6-3, the old Alex Smith comparison. If they're 6-3 and Fitzpatrick's not injured, then yes, they're going to stick with him. So anytime Heineke comes in to start or whatever, it's bad news. You're in trouble. It's just like the argument I keep seeing on Twitter about AGG or Harmon for that 6th receiver spot. And I keep saying, if you see either one of those, you're in trouble. because that means they're filling in for the studs, and the studs are hurt or not performing.
People are really, really
can't-
tying
we
tying a
don't
lot of.
care.
I think that just speaks to where we're at in the football, off season at this point. That we're
That's right,
arguing
yeah.
over who's going to be the last wide receiver picked for the team.
Right.
I tell you
Right.
what, I'm excited to see this in person as we're headed to the training camp that's coming up. So
Yes.
you'll see Stoner and I. So if you're out at training camp, please be sure to hit us up, and we'll talk more about that, I think, probably next week. But as far as this week,
closer,
we have the Washington football team name. We have what we think is going to go in there, and then we also have Fitzpatrick is the second best quarterback in the NFC East. We'll see where he lands up. So it'll be pretty interesting. In the post game, we're going to be talking about our Nationals, our Washington Nationals, and how they finally got back to 500 and have fallen from grace since then in the injuries. That's all coming up in the post game. All right, welcome back. So here in the post game, I mentioned we're going to be talking about our Washington Nationals. I feel like this team almost put it together, and that they would be able to do well when they had that surge. Now we knew that they wouldn't be able to keep the surge going. I don't think that was possible. But I did not expect or want them to fall back the way they have here recently, where it just seems the team isn't playing together. Now they have some injuries and they have a lot of things that are kind of going not their way. Pitching is horrendous right now.
Yeah.
So, but they are still kind of hovering around that area where I wanted them to as we head into the All-Star, weekend. That hopefully they can put together another win or two, and we can get another surge here in the second half and see where things end up. But I just don't know if they're healthy enough, and I don't know that the pitching staff is good enough. The bats certainly aren't. Outside of one or two bats, you're just not really getting it. Trey Turner's having a hell of a season. Soto is not the best hitter in baseball right now, but has that potential and is still having a decent season. I mean, he's still above replacement level. And, Schwarber had that amazing month of June. We'll see what we get from him when he comes back fully healthy. So where do you feel like the Nationals are headed?
Well, they're in trouble. That's for sure.
You've already written them off.
And
Like, this is...
Yeah, I don't think that they can come back from all of this. They're digging too big of a hole. Although they're only 4.5 out of the lead, one of these teams is going to get hot, whether it's the Mets, the Phillies, or the Braves. I don't think it's going to be Washington because of injuries and inconsistent play from their bats, like you said. But the injuries are just killing this team. When you lose Strasburg and you lose Lester was out for a little bit, and now Joe Ross is out, and half your bullpen is out, and you're bringing in guys who just got signed the day before, and in your lineup you're on your fourth catcher, your second baseman, your third left fielder. That's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. Shout out to Ross.
And that's exactly what's happened
for saving
that was pretty cool.
Saving a fan with the Heimlich maneuver. So that was pretty good stuff there.
That was pretty cool.
You're right. The injuries
they're
are the thing is, and I'm a big believer in this. And even though the Washington football team has had this happen to them several years in a row, where injuries just piled up and you're just like, oh, this would have been a good team if it weren't for the injuries. I just feel like that's just an excuse. A lot of teams have to deal with that. So unless it's like, and right now it certainly feels like it's just an exorbitant amount, right? It just feels like this is just way more than any other team has to deal with. Key players too that are going out. We haven't seen Strasburg. Realistically, even when he has been in, he hasn't been the same. And, Soto's been dealing with the injuries and his bat's not where we want it, although he's starting to get a little hotter now. And we'll see how he does in the home run derby, put up against the media darling there out in LA.
Yeah.
So to me though, even when they were healthy, the team just wasn't very good. And
Yeah,
so
they're not.
and
They're not
you
great.
take a team that wasn't performing very well outside of the end of the month of June, because really it wasn't even the full month. It was just the back half where they played every day.
Yeah.
So you take away that, and the team's just not all that impressive. And now you pile on these injuries, and these injuries are in key places. That's why they're struggling, which is why I have maybe a little bit of faith that if they get healthy, they can turn around. And they are pretty close to where I wanted them. I said at the beginning of the season, I said just get to the All-Star game at 500, and they can make a push in the second half. I think they're in a place right now where I don't know that they can make the push, but I think they're at least in a place where they're not going to sell off players. I don't think they're trading away max at this point. I don't, which is if they continued the slide before that June push, I could see them starting to, prepare for next season already. And that'd be very disappointing as a fan. So I think we'll see how it plays out, but I definitely think they end up on the outside looking in.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, the trade deadline is the end of the month. I think it's July 31st, so it's not that far away. You got a couple weeks into the second half of the season. I mean, they're past the halfway point in games, but the All-Star break being the traditional halfway through the season. So they're going to have to make a decision within the next couple weeks, whether they're going to be buyers, sellers, stay pat, whatever. And as long as I've been following the team, they've never been sellers. Well, maybe last year they were a little bit. They got rid of a few bullpen guys, but not any really big names. So I don't think they're going to be sellers. That's not Mike Rizzo's track record.
Which is good because if you actually look at the games, historically speaking, you look at the teams that decided that they were going to sell, they ended up bombing, and it doesn't actually get you to where you want to be. But if you look at the teams that buy, to include the 2019 Washington Nationals, those teams that are like, no, okay, even though we're not, this team that's, 20 games above 500, we're going to look to make a push. Those teams historically end up performing better. So it's good. It's good to me that they'll be in a buying seat. I don't know that they really have buying power right now is the thing. So they have a lot of needs.
Yeah. For sure.
I don't think that the farm system looks particularly attractive for them.
Yeah.
So they don't have a lot of young guys to bring up. That was a big talk for us at the beginning of the season where, we had these one-time, AAA players that we're pretty excited about, but they're just not big league ready, and they're getting older, and they probably never will be. So I don't know. It's difficult. I'm not going to bury them yet, Stoner. I'm not giving up on them like you have, but it's definitely kind of looking like it's not going to be the season we wanted it to be. First full season back. We're defending world champions. The Nationals are defending world champions for a full season.
Right.
So don't forget that. Don't forget that.
Yeah, don't forget that.
So,
I agree with most of that, but you can also look at if these guys can come back healthy, then these are almost like you're buying more guys that you're adding to the roster. If Strasburg gets healthy, if Joe Ross doesn't look serious, if some of their bullpen guys, if Schwarber comes back, if all of these guys can come back healthy, then maybe it's just like you're buying these guys, bringing them in for the stretch run.
Yeah, a healthy.
But the biggest thing is obviously Strauss
at his level that we know he can pitch. That right there is winning you probably another dozen games.
Well, I don't know about that.
If Strasburg comes back to normal Strasburg
as compared,
level,
he's not gonna win 12.
I'm saying that's the equivalent to not himself, but I'm saying that's the equivalent to him. That I think the team itself can win essentially 12 games if they have a healthy Strasburg back. Because I think you're winning those games.
That's a little aggressive,
Yeah,
but okay.
I think I'm a little bit aggressive when it comes to these things, but I feel like Strasburg wins you his games, and then the team starts playing better collectively. Because they that the momentum gets there, right? You saw this a little bit when they brought on Para again. The team was happier. The team started playing better. I think that's worn off. Yeah. He's made a few mistakes. Right. There's a reason why he wasn't playing with the team for last year, more so than just that he moved on to Japan and all that. But it'll be interesting to see where they end up. Again, try to get to the All-Star break as close to 500 as possible. We'll see what the trade deadline has.
They got one game left. Today's the last game. And they're 4 under right now.
Okay. So if they win, go 1-0 today. Right? That's what they said. Go 1-0 today.
That's Davey's mantra.
Right. So that's the best they can do.
But we talked about that stretch that they were going to go through against all these good teams: Tampa, Dodgers, Padres, Giants, and how they needed to get close to 500. I think they're 4-8 in those games. That's tough. 5-8. And then I think their first game's 5-8.
Since I'm saying they could go 5-8. If they're 4-8 now, they could go 5-8.
Yeah. And then I think they start off the second half against the Dodgers again in LA. I think I haven't looked at the schedule lately, and then it tapers off, and you've got some easier games, which is good.
All right. Well, that's our Washington Nationals talk. This is Ref the District. Again, you can catch us live streaming on our YouTube channel, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time every Sunday. And we'll have more information on that because we might be moving around the schedule a little bit as we get closer to the season. Have some collaborations in view as well with some of our other Washington football team pods. So keep an eye out for that stuff. You can follow us on Twitter at Ref the District as well. You can listen to the audio podcast on your favorite devices, whether or not that's Amazon, Apple, Google, or Spotify. You can catch us there as well. Make sure you like and subscribe because we're pretty close to 100. All right, on our YouTube channel, we're at 93, I think, so 7 away. And once we get there, we'll be putting out the message. We want to see, where did you come from as far as a fan? And we'll play your video on our podcast as we talk about where our fandom came as well. And so we're pretty excited about that. Like us or follow us on Twitter as well for all the good stuff. Speaking of Twitter, before we leave, I did want to make sure that we address something within the Washington football team, family. Is that Hog Farmers, Chris Bryant lost his dad, and so we just want to send our condolences over to Chris and his family, and wish you the best as you grieve. So we're sorry for your loss. So, and with that, I'm Nathan Perry. He's the Stoner. This is Ref the District.
We love Washington, and we some die-hard fans. Yeah, we are. And we keep it on 10. Let's talk about the offense. 1, 2, 3, let's go.
And they gifted.
We are
Nathan and the Stoner. Yeah, that's Ref the District.
That's the podcast.
Come on now and join us.
You join it.